Hello, everyone, and welcome to Phil Sinclair Investigates Podcast. Today we have the fantastic Richard-Lael Lillard on the show, and I can't explain how it's an honor to have him on. I sent him a message thinking he'll not be interested in doing anything like this, but if he answered back within 5 minutes and said, "I'd love to." And that, and that is just a credit to you, thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
No, it's a pleasure is all mine. So people may not know who you are. There's people who will know who you are, but for those who doesn't know who you are, can you give a little explanation of who you are, what you're about, let everyone
Certainly,
know.
absolutely. So my first name is Richard-Lael. The full name is Richard-Lael Lillard. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a dick. Anyway, so I'm a psychic and a medium, and I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. And
I have myself, don't worry about it.
And I'm well known for my appearance on Ghost Adventures, on Jubilee Media, on various other shows, and I'm a paranormal investigator. Like I said, psychic and a medium, and world traveler, one of those things.
There we go, brilliant stuff. So, people, how did I don't want to talk about Ghost Adventures all the time, but
we can talk about Ghost Adventures. We can start off with that.
No, I want to talk about you. I'm not just wanting, but people who are watching will be interested in Ghost Adventures. So, how did that come about? How did you end up on Ghost Adventures?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So, I was doing other work in Los Angeles. I was the master of ceremonies at the Beetle House. It's a Tim Burton inspired bar. I've been reading tarot. I've been a psychic since forever. I would do parties and events and things, but I never thought I would focus on that as far as monetary. And then there were some cosmic shakeups, if you will. Things sort of went askew, and I said, okay, well, let me think about this clearly. There are things that I have to accomplish, and so I just posted on my Facebook feed. I said, I have always been a clairvoyant, but now I'm coming out publicly, and I'm offering it to my friends. And so people started coming; they started enjoying it. One of the reviewers who became a friend, she wrote, "He's a gentleman and a psychic," and I went, "Oh, I like that. That's what I want to be, is the gentleman psychic." And then from that, I got invited onto a podcast with my friend Frankie Franck, another paranormal investigator. And through that, I met my good friend Patty Negri. And Patty, they asked her at Ghost Adventures, they said, "Do you know anyone who is haunted, who has kind of a nicer place that could be investigated?" And she says, "I have just the guy for you." So they called me up and they said, "Would you like to do it?" I said, "Absolutely, why not?" And then the rest is, I suppose, as it's colloquially known as history.
Yeah, it is a fantastic episode, the Pasadena Ritual House episode, which is what the episode is called, and just your persona just commands that screen. It's just like wow, who is this guy? It's and no, it's not. It's fantastic. I mean, to be charismatic, and it's got, and the evidence found on the episode is pretty incredible as well, especially with the Ouija board with Aaron. And it kind of starts spelling his name, but not quite fully. But they get the idea of that, and you can see it on the guy's faces that this is a little bit.
That did make me laugh. There was the funny thing that happened. They said to me, originally they just interviewed me, and then they said, "Hey, can you do us a seance?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So they go in the other room and they're doing their EVPs, and I'm preparing myself for the seance. I've put on my ceremonial attire, and I've got my rum out, and I'm meditating, and the glass of rum on the table starts doing this. It starts vibrating. And just as that glass starts vibrating, they get an EVP that says, take a drink. And Zach says, take a drink of what? Of blood?
Yeah, I saw that. And, you know, didn't in the episode, didn't they say that used to be a bar area in where there was? And then Zach's like, no, I don't. One, I think it's Billy, he says, I think take a drink. Didn't this used to be a bar? And Zach's like, no, I think they meant blood. And I just thought, I just thought,
yeah, I was in the other room, and it was all I could do to keep from laughing at that, because I'm looking at the glass and the rum is stirring in the glass, and I just went, no, silly, it's the rum, that's what it is. And then when we did the seance and I said, and now we take a drink, and Zach goes, oh, it makes sense now. Oh.
Yeah, I love Zach. He's
wonderful.
Yeah,
he's really professional and really kind.
But he's a character, and that's why people watch him, you know.
Yeah, no, he's and the evidence is real. There's nothing fake about it. They are over the top. He's over the top, but it's his personality. They don't fake anything. It's really good.
Definitely, yeah. It's really good. Like I say, if you haven't checked the episode, it will be on Discovery Plus if you got that. And just check that episode. I think it's season 19. I think it is
19. I believe it's 19. Mm-hmm.
19. Yeah, it's that one. Yeah, so it's all good stuff. And you say Patty's your good friend, is she?
Yes, Patty Negri and I. We do events together, and she and I. She's the good witch, and I'm the Satanist, but. Even though we approach things slightly differently, we actually, when I have been on her show, she'll say, and the nicest Satanist I know, you know?
Yeah. It's just tell me a little bit more about the Satanism then. So people always seem to assume Satanism was bad, and you shouldn't, this is bad, and, you know, without offending people, it's like we can believe in God, but we can't believe in the devil. Is that what we've kind of, but you'll give people your opinion, if you may, of your
sure.
What is Satanism to you?
I don't believe in God, and I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in a literal either. I think that energy is energy, and it's neither positive or negative. And frankly, the universe doesn't actually care one way or the other what happens. And I think that sort of is the law of order. So to use the image of the devil, it's sort of the way that a lot of there's Buddhists are either atheist or theistic. Mostly they're atheistic. They believe, sure, there was a Buddha that existed and he achieved a higher state of mind, and this is the symbol that I want to achieve. And much is the same way in Satanism, is that most Satanists are atheistic. There are some theistic ones, but those are oftentimes referred to as reverse Christians. So it's just a symbol. It helps us to attain, to remember that mankind is an animal, that we can perhaps bend the will to suit ours, but mankind is an animal, more or less.
Right, yeah, so that is an explanation for you folks out there. So when did you know that you had an ability to...
Oh, well, that's the funny part. So since I was a kid, a little boy, I knew things. I thought everybody knew things. And then I think the first really time of my actual knowing was when I was 4. My father came down with French polio, Guillain-Barré, and he died in the hospital, and he was under the sheet. He was cognitive the entire time, but he passed away. But during this whole time of his coma and the whole thing, people would ask me, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I said, "My father's coming home for my birthday," and they would go, "Oh, bless," which is sort of Southern talk for "you dumb kid, you don't know." And then I said, "No, my father is coming home for my birthday, but I'll have him for 20 more years, maybe a little bit more, but he's coming home for my birthday." Well, he came home the day and the night before my birthday, and I sat there coloring, and my mom said, well, honey, aren't you excited? Your daddy came home for your birthday. I said, well, I knew he was going to.
Yeah,
And
brilliant.
so he was home for my birthday, and then 20 years later, he died the day and the night after my birthday.
Right.
So that was sort of the first time. But I mean, there's other instances, you know, growing up, little things that you would know, and you'd go, oh, okay, well, I thought everyone would know things like that.
Do you, some people have been asking in the chat, do you see, you know, say if you go to a haunted place, can you see the person, or does it, you know, these questions I'm asking you, don't, please, I mean,
No, of course.
I'm no way psychic. I'm a paranormal investigator, and I approach my paranormal investigating with a completely open mind. You know,
Sure.
I don't say this person blah 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 blah. You know, it's just
There have been times where I have experienced strangeness. There have been times where I swore that I was seeing a person, and there were times when I could hear the conversations in my head and I would relay it. One of the funniest times I actually saw a person. This is one of the times I actually got scared. I never get scared, but we were in, my friends and I, we were in Virginia City, which is, it's an old West mining town, 1860s, 1870s. And we were at the old Washoe Club. So I walk into the room, and I sensed that there was a woman standing there, and she's in this full gown, and she's looking over at someone standing in the corner. And I look over, and I physically see boots and legs, and I go up, and there's a body there, but there's no life. There is no life. And I run out, and I go, no, 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 no. And then I go, okay, that's silly. We all turn the lights on. We go back into we have our cameras on our phone. We turn it on, and it's a mannequin sitting there. The mannequin scared me more than any sort of extra sensory perceptions.
brilliant stuff. So, if there's a person out there who feels they've got these abilities, but they're frightened to tell someone about it, or they feel embarrassed to tell, you know, what would your advice be to that person? Would you say go ahead and with your feelings, or?
Of course. The thing is, people are always afraid of being ignorant or being stupid or being seen as foolish. And I have not been immune to it completely either, but I've come to a point where now I just say what I say what I say, and if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, and I don't apologize for it. And that's what I would suggest for anyone, is that you say what you say, and it will more than likely mean something to the other person. People will think you're mad, people will think you're, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah, if you think if you don't do it, you'll never be yourself, will you? So it's you know, and it's a bit off topic, but it's a little bit much like sexuality as well.
Sure.
You know, it's you just, if you are this person and that makes you happy, then just do it. Just do it. I would hate anybody to be out there to feel as though they couldn't be who they wanted to be, you know. So that is a good advice for anybody out there. So if you just kind of feel as though you've got some kind of, embrace the ability. I would like to ask, who's helped you mature your ability? Who's guided you? Who's been your main influence?
My main influences. Well, you know what? I am quite a fan of 19th and 20th century occultists. Aleister Crowley comes to mind. Anton LaVey comes to mind. Madame Blavatsky comes to mind. Even I love the spiritualism of the 19th century that was so wrought throughout England and the United States in the 19th century. That's really where I sort of draw my inspiration from. More contemporary wise, who has been my inspiration? Oh goodness, I that's really a hard one for me, because it sort of is just. I read a lot. I read a lot of things, and I study a lot of things, and I don't always know where things come from, but I go, oh, this is what it works for me.
Yeah, it's like anything else. It's like it's like sing-a-song. I was watching a Bob Dylan documentary last night, and people was talking to him at this press conference, and they was talking to him like he was some kind of god, and like he was just all these songs he wrote, they all thought that he was just this, and Bob Dylan's just sat there and he just like, I don't know, I just write the songs. There's no, there's no hidden message behind everything I write the songs, and and that can be very much to from your influences as well. So what is the best compliment you have ever received for your work or any general?
The best compliment, oh goodness. Well, you know what? One of the things that I do, I'm an artist, I paint, and I'll get to why this was important to me. So years ago, I had an art show, many years ago now, and this woman came up to my painting, to the canvas, and she had to feel it, she had to touch it, and she said, I knew it was paint, but I just had to feel it, I had to see for myself because it was so realistic. I couldn't believe that I wouldn't feel the intricate carvings on this piece. And as a magician, that sort of is what I do. So I tell people will come and they say, oh, I only want light, love and light, love and light. Great, love and light is good. But the problem is that the light is not always truthful. The light can make things that are far away seem much closer, or something that is beautiful to seem ugly, and vice versa. Lighting is powerful. It changes the colors, it changes complexions, it changes shadows. The darkness is actually the truth. Everything in the dark is what it's going to be. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. The problem with walking in the dark is that you don't know what's coming, that you could fall, you could stumble, you could trip, there could be beasts hiding behind trees, who knows. But real power lies in walking in the darkness, but holding the light and commanding the shadows. So that way then you can bend reality to your will. So the greatest compliment that I had was, I thought that this painting would be three-dimensional.
That's it, and there you go. And your ability, is there anybody you've really helped with your ability? Like you've saved somebody needed some guidance? And
there have been a lot of people that I have helped. Many years ago, when I was playing Freddie Mercury, I had lived in London for a while, and then I randomly received a gig in Greece. And I went over to the Isle of Corfu. Corfu, Sidari town. I was in Sidari. And I had finished my set as Freddie Mercury, and I thought, boy, there's something very strange. There's something very strange. I walked back to the little flat, and I said, something strange. I feel like I need to go back. I'm not hungry, but maybe that's it. Maybe I'm hungry. Maybe that's it. So I went down to the little late night cafe, and I sat there and I had a little bite, and I thought, no, there's something very strange. So I felt like I needed to go to the beach, go further up the beach, And I passed on my way on this late night stroll, I passed these two broad-shouldered, big Greek men, big guys. I was there for 6 months. I had never seen them before or afterwards. And I climbed up on the sunbeds, and I sat there and I began to meditate on the sea and on the power of emotion, all of these, as one does in meditation. And my eye was momentarily drawn. There was a man and a woman playing out in the sea. They were laughing and playing, and everything was exciting. And then I thought, okay, I'm focused back now on my meditation, focus now on the meditation. Before too long, this woman comes running by me this way. Her hair is wet, she's holding her shoes, and some other bloke is behind her, and he's pursuing her, and he's addressing her in a manner of way that would not be befitting of a lady. calling her all manner of names. And I thought, okay, I need to watch this. I need to see what's going on. Well, the next thing I know, he's got her down on the ground. He's kicking her and he's tossing her, hitting her over the head with a bag of takeout, calling her all manner of names still. And I stood up and I put my hands on my hips. I stood up and he comes running at me. He says, "Mind your own business. I'm having a fight with the missus." And I said an expletive, but basically it was, "Don't touch her." So he comes running at me and he says, "I'm bigger than you are. I can take you out. I can break you in half." I said, "Hold that thought. Just a second. Hold on just a second." And I go over to those two Greek men and I say, "Hi, excuse me, come with me. Hi, right here, like this, right here. Stand right here." So both of them stood by and I said to him firmly, "Don't touch her." Well, she goes off. He kicks her. She falls flat on her back. I said, "Hey." And these two men, they swoop in like this at him. And he looks up at me and he has a look of sheer, unadulterated terror, like I've never seen. He goes running off and I reach my hand down. The woman says, "He's bigger than you are. He could have hurt you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Then she sees me. She says, "Oh my God, you're Freddie Mercury. I'm so embarrassed. I was going to come and see your show. I'm so embarrassed." I said, "It's quite all right." She says, "What were you doing alone on the beach at 3 o'clock in the morning?" I said, "You know, I was here for you and I was here for him." And I said, "He has a child, a boy from another marriage, another woman, he has a child." Yeah, she said, he does have a boy, a child. I said, "Well, I'm here for all of you, but that boy would have lost his father tonight in one way or another, and I'm here for you." So we sat and we talked a little bit for 15, 20 minutes maybe. And then he comes sheepishly back and she gets really anxious. And I said, No. He says, "I'm not going to hurt you." I said, "I know that. I wasn't afraid of you half an hour ago. Why would I be afraid of you now?" And he goes, "So that's why I want to talk." And I said, to her, I said, "It's okay. Go back to your hotel now. It's fine. I'll talk to him now." So he sits down and he says, "What were you doing alone on the beach at 3 o'clock in the morning?" I said, "I was here for you and I was here for her and I was here for your child." And I said, "But furthermore, when you both walked by me, when you went by me, in my mind's eye, I saw a knife and it was covered in blood. There was water running from the tap. There was blood everywhere, lots and lots of blood. I don't know what that means, but that was..." And he turned pale and he goes, "Oh, well, she's a product of abuse and her mother murdered her father and there was blood everywhere and she did so with a knife because she couldn't take the abuse." I said, "Well, I don't know if that was what I was seeing or if it was here tonight, but I'm telling you that if this would have continued, your child would not have had a father. Either you would have been dead or she would have been dead and you would have been deported. You would have gone to prison. Either way it is." And I said, "Well, you know, the truth is, you don't love each other." He says, "No, but I got jealous. I saw her being happy and I wanted to give her that happiness. And I know I'm not the man for her." I said, then why are you wasting your time, both of you?" So I don't know whatever happened to them, but it reminded me as they both had asked me, "What are you doing alone on the beach at 3 o'clock in the morning?" And at that point, I didn't see those Greek men run after him. I saw them swoop in. I didn't see them afterwards. And so I was so grateful that I did see them because it gave me a little bit of courage that I might not otherwise have had. But I think that in that case, I was able to sort of change the hand of time, as it were.
Brilliant. Answered the question above and beyond there. Thank you very much. What is something that people misunderstand about you? What is something, you know, go right ahead, you know.
Oh, there's plenty of things people misunderstand. For one thing, when people look at me, a major thing is that they think, "Oh, you're an out Satanist. That means that you eat babies and that you sacrifice animals." That's nothing is further from the truth. Satanists do not ever do that, ever, under any circumstance. there are rules about not taking away the freedom of choice from another person, another being. We only eat meat when we are hungry, or if we're in danger, is when we would harm an animal. Now, I'm not a vegan. I wish I were, but I'm allergic to plants. Another thing that people sort of misunderstand about me is they have seen me on the videos, they've heard me speak, they think that I've put on airs, they think that I am dressed like a vampire, they think that I am somehow acting or somehow being fake. And I like to think that nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, it's does take quite, to say, with your dress and things like that. That's quite the act, to go through. I mean, that's just you. That's what you want to wear. This outfit I'm wearing today is because I want to wear that. I could have come onto this live stream and wore a tracksuit top or trainers. But no, I like smart clothing. And that's what. But we're all different at the end of the day.
Sure.
If we're all the same, the world will be a boring place. That's for
Wouldn't
sure.
it be?
Yeah.
Absolutely boring.
Definitely boring. So let's touch upon this Satanism some more, if we don't mind.
Sure.
So we don't want to get nervous around the subject. So how did you think, right, I'm interested in this, I want to pursue this, or when was that moment?
Well, that's kind of a long. I'll give you the abridged, and I'll sort of take you on a journey.
Yeah, you don't get into too much personal detail or anything.
No,
like
I don't. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind at all. But I will tell you. So I had moved to San Francisco after my stint in Europe, and sort of the deciding factor to go to San Francisco was I flew back from Greece, and then I was in Sweden, and then from Sweden I flew back into England. I think I was at Gatwick Airport. Blah,
Yeah.
Gatwick. Anyway, I was there at Gatwick, and I picked up a magazine, and it had the article was about San Francisco, and it said, "A British gay man's point of San Francisco, and P.S. I loved it." So I was, oh, well, maybe I should go to San Francisco. So I went to San Francisco. Then that was where I started getting more into the occult world and into meditation. And at the time, I was engaged, and I said to my fiance, I said, "Oh, I think I'm a Satanist." And my fiance said, "No, you're not." I said, "Oh, yes, I am." "Oh, no, you couldn't handle it." I said, "Well, you think you're a Buddhist, but you're not." So he went, "I certainly am." And I went, "Then I'm a Satanist." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So we were, that was how that sort of, it was just one of those things where I went, this really speaks to me. But years and years ago, when I was a boy, I was raised in the Christian church, but more specifically, I was raised Pentecostal. I know it's not a big thing in the UK, but Pentecostalism, it's kind of an American phenomenon. It started in 1909, and in California, there was a revival, and these people had what they said was speaking in other tongues, and they were rolling around on the floor.
Yeah.
So it's quite extreme Christianity. And this happened when I was a kid, and it was very sort of hellfire and brimstone. And I remember them speaking about how that the devil was the most beautiful angel. And then, of course, every depiction of him was with dark hair and dark eyes and with a mustache and great body. And I went, he really is beautiful. That really is so beautiful. I really think it's beautiful.
It's very much like the depiction in the Lucifer, the TV show.
Yes,
they depict
Lucifer.
him as a very smart man and very cunning and very charming.
That's a funny story you bring up, Lucifer, the television show, because I was living in LA when that was being filmed, and for at least a decade, my Starbucks name was Lucifer. Because it was funny. "Lucifer, your latte." Oh, for crying out loud, they would say, So I would have that, and I was a Satanist, and I I was driving my classic roadster up and down Hollywood Boulevard, and I had interactions with the street preachers. And so when I watched episode 1, now living in Los Angeles, if you're any kind of character, they're all watching, they're all looking for ideas. So these people, they would go on the street, they would watch, and I was quite well known in the area. So I'm convinced, and I don't think there's anything that can convince me otherwise, that show was actually inspired by yours truly.
Right. There we go. You heard it here first.
I've had friends who have watched the show, and they said, I feel like he's impersonating you.
You never know. That could be quite true, you know. So Satanism, so it does get kind of a bad rap, you know, bad.
Sure it does. Sure it does.
But in your opinion, who influenced that, as in like a movie or?
Sure.
You know.
Well, there's a lot of things that go on. So, you know, up until the 1960s, if someone was called a Satanist, it was usually followed with "burn the witch."
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the Puritans on both sides, in England and Europe, there were the witch trials, and then, you know, infamously in Salem here in the United States.
Yeah.
So
was it in the 1600s? That
yeah, 16. I can't remember the 16 something.
Yeah, it was that in that period. You know, if there used to be a lot of that in the UK as well. I mean, horrendous for the women.
And they would oftentimes associate it with the devil and being akin to the devil and worshiping the darkness. But in the 1960s, well, after Aleister Crowley died in 1947, his message of free love really took off in the early 60s. And then, of course, the Beatles had him on the album cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Yeah. And then in 1966, Anton Szandor LaVey founded the Church of Satan in San Francisco. And it became kind of it was a new movement, and it attracted celebrities, including Jane Mansfield, Sammy Davis Jr., to name a few. Currently, one of the biggest ones is Marilyn Manson. Now, the thing is, it was not a bad thing. The problem that happened was in the subsequent years, in 1980, the book came out, Michelle Remembers, and it was about this woman who had dated her. She ended up by marrying her psychologist, and she basically spawned the Satanic Panic. She said that she was abused as a child, and that they would take her to sacrifice animals, and daycares were being investigated. And then you've got, in the 70s, you've got all of the serial killers that were really
Charles Manson,
what's his name, Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
There were a lot of serial killers.
Richard Ramirez. He was. Do you think he was a Satanist? Did you?
No, I don't.
Or do you think it was just an act?
I think he was a reverse Christian. I think that he literally thought that he was doing like the Son of Sam, who thought that he heard the voice of Satan through a dog. I think that was a lot of mental illness. Yeah. I think because to be a literal, a theistic Satanist, to actually believe in Yahweh and the devil, and then think that Yahweh is all good and the devil is all bad, so you choose to be all bad, I think that's insane. Because if you read the book, then you know how if it's a Christian energy, you know how it's supposed to turn out for that energy. And then it's also the accepting of things that are ugly, things that are bad, things that are cruel. That's not at all, if you actually read the context of the Bible, that's not at all what the character of the devil does at all.
It makes a lot of people have an opinion about the Bible, but I want to ask, how many people have actually read the Bible? You know, they have. You know, you've given me your opinion, but have you read that? You know,
I studied to become a minister, and that's part of the reason I left the church, is because I read it front to back several times. And in the Bible, the one who's supposed to be all good, which is God, Yahweh, is the one that commands genocide and rape and slavery and selling your daughter into sexual slavery and talking about beating your child and murdering gay people and murdering witches and murdering non-believers and murdering people who work on the Sabbath and murdering people who wear mixed fibers. It's death, 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 death. Hemet Mehta, who's a well-known atheist, he did a series about all of the death total. It was some ridiculous amount. It was something like 20 million people that this all-loving God murdered. And there were 10 that the devil character murdered at the behest of Yahweh. Yeah. And that was in the book of Job. And he says, hey, Job. He says, yeah, that's because you've given him everything. Oh yeah, well, take away his family, take away everything he has, don't touch his life. Take away his health, don't touch his life. So if God speaks, now it's all fiction, but if God speaks things into existence, then of course the devil has no choice but to be the hitman.
It's like these people, you know, whose Christianity is their faith and things like that. It's like my question to them: how do they explain the true disasters in the world, and how can they explain that as on a Christian level? You know, how would if there was a God, would you do this? You know,
yeah,
you know, but people, like I say, people have it all, everyone out there is watching this, have got their own faith, and
sure, and that's fine. I will. People think that I would be against their faith, and the truth is, I would fight for people to have the right to believe whatever they want.
Definitely, they're being told that they would be. This is what they have to believe, and you know.
But the problem is that if they could just hold it themselves and not vote to suppress gay people's rights or immigrants' rights or women's rights over their own autonomy. That's where I have the issue. And as a Satanist, that's the number one thing, is freedom of choice. So, you know, it's my body. Why do I need you to tell me what to do with my body?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's like people, you know, people believe, if people, like, brings me back to the original topic, if you're happy and you're thinking, but please don't preach that on other people, and let people make their own mind up, just like we have, you know. That's sure. Kind of my way of looking at it.
I've had, I lived in Hollywood, as you well know, and I'm an odd character. I am such an odd. I always draw attention, no matter how I'm dressed. So I remember once. Now this is the predecessor to my Roadster, which is now Mr. Satan. But my predecessor was a Roadster named Gloria, and had a big angel on the, like a mascot in the front of it. And I remember there was a man on the street who said to me, "Young man," pointing his finger, "young man, you need to thank God for that car. He gave you that. You're not respecting
But he didn't
God."
know, did he? It's some an engineer, metal workers. I've given you.
And I said, "Thanks. I paid for it myself. I sure wish somebody would have paid for it, but I worked my butt off for it."
Yeah.
And so he comes over, and then he starts screaming all kinds of slurs against homosexuality, all kinds, and then started screaming in the name of Jesus. And I'm going, you really think that's going to make me want to be like you? Because it doesn't. But honestly, I would fight for anyone's right to believe whatever they want, as long as they are not pushing it on other people.
That's my thought. We're both on the same level there. That's my thoughts exactly. So you guys who's not familiar with Richard-Lael, if you follow him on his social media, he does these little impromptu live streams where he's driving around his area in his little car from like the 1920s, and it's fantastic. You know, it's fantastic, and it's just, yeah, it's you know, it's admiring to watch, you know.
Well, I love it. I do. The car's name is Mr. Satan.
Yeah, but beware of the name.
People think that I'm Mr. Satan, but I'm not. It's actually the car is Mr. Satan. So sometimes I have people go, but why Mr. Satan? And I go, well, if you owned a classic car, you would understand.
Yeah.
All I do.
It's a beautiful car. I mean, is it an old one, or is it one what's
It's
being
partially
manufactured?
old. It's
Yeah, yeah.
partially old. So
Obviously, it's going to have all new inners, and when you're working.
parts of the car, were done in the 70s. It was parts of it are 70s. But then there are old parts, like all of the accessories date back to the turn of the century.
Yeah.
The last century.
Wow. Pretty crazy. If anyone's in the chat and wants to ask any questions for Richard-Lael, write him in there, and I'll answer ask whatever's suitable for him. And Lael, is that have a meaning for something? Is that?
It certainly does. I'm so glad
something,
you asked.
everything to God, or is it a gift
You
to
are
God?
you're very accurate. Yes. So I was born under the name Richard-Lael Lillard. It was the moniker that I was born with. But growing up, people just called me Richie. And I didn't like Richie. I didn't like Richard. I didn't like Rick. I didn't like Ricky. I didn't like any sort of deviation. I liked Richard-Lael, but I thought it was too much for people to say. So recently I was like, this was right around the time of Ghost Adventures. And I went, no, I'm going to just go by the name that I was given. It's a great name. So Lael is ancient Aramaic, or Lael, ancient Aramaic, and it means gift of God, chosen of God, belonging to God, directed by God. But there's more to it than that, because El was any one of the Middle Eastern gods of the day, and he was oftentimes associated with the horned god. And so the first name is Richard. The first part of the first name is Richard, and that is Middle English, which is powerful ruler, and then Lael, chosen of God, the horned god, and then the surname of Lillard, or Liard in French, Lillard in English. It's a derivative of Lillard, which means heretic, witch, opposer of the faith, accuser of the brethren, mumbler, spellcaster, nice things.
Yeah, it's crazy. So did you say you've lived in the UK?
I did. I briefly was in the United Kingdom. I was in London for a while. I had been living in Vegas, and I was a Freddie Mercury tribute.
And what you sang and did all
I did all. I did the whole thing. That's what I did.
But it's funny you say that, because when I first saw you, I thought he reminds me of Freddie Mercury. But I didn't know that about you, and that's something I've learned just now. But it's funny that maybe it was some kind of written in the stars for you to do.
Written in the stars.
Yeah. But I love Freddie Mercury. I like watching old interviews from from the 80s. And he's such a brilliant guy.
He was. What a kind and gentle soul. When I was in England, it was right around the time, I was there for several months, but I remember it was right around the time of Pride. Oh God, over a decade ago now. And I was at this little place called the Stallion, way down in the village. And it hasn't been updated since the 1980s. It's cheesy. And this fella comes up to me and he says, he's got tears in his eyes, and he goes, I never do this. I said, no, it's all right, darling. And he says, no, do you know how much you like Freddie Mercury? I said, well, that's what I do. I play Freddie Mercury. He goes, I don't think you understand. I knew Freddie. He was one of my dearest friends on the planet. He says, actually, I knew him through Kenny Everett. I was more friends with Kenny Everett first. But Freddie said he was the nicest man I'd ever met in my life. Mad as hell, but the nicest guy. And he says, and I see that same madness in your eye. And I said, well, thank you. He says, I don't even know what to call you. I said, well, you can, my name is Richard-Lael, but you can call me whatever you want. He says, could I really call you Freddie? Could I? I said, well, I don't care. Call me Freddie. And he goes, good, because I can't call you anything else. And then I said, well, I'd like to be your friend. He says, I can't. And he began to cry. He says, I can't. I've seen impersonators and I've not been affected. and I have heard the music, and it's not bothered me. But right now, in your presence, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm with my friend, and it makes me miss my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then later he did. I gave him my card. Later we went out for drinks, and we talked and chatted, and it was healing for him at that moment.
Yeah. So I watched an Elton John documentary, an interview with Elton John, and he said he went to go and see Freddie, but like a couple of days before he passed away, and he said that he had such a love for life that he was still buying things, and he still had antique catalogs, and he was still like, and people like saying Freddie, you know, but he would just living his life till the very last breath, you know. It's
he had
incredible.
Impeccable taste. Had he not been a famous rock star, he would have been interior decorator. Really good taste. My favorite encounter, though, is when he encountered Michael Jackson. Are you familiar with the story?
I think I might have read it, but Phil,
And Neverland. So, long story short, they're at Neverland Ranch, and he's been given the tour, and they end up in Michael Jackson's bedroom, and it's got this king-size bed on the floor. There's no actual frame. It's on the mattress is on the floor. And the gold record, the platinum record for Thriller is propped up against the wall. And Freddie says to Michael, he says, "What's the matter, Michael? You can't afford a bed." And Michael says, "Oh, I just like to be close to the earth." And Fred says, "Well, you're on the ground floor, Michael. How much closer you want to be? In it?"
Yeah.
And then he gets in the limousine with Peter Freestone, and they're excited that they just got to go to Neverland Ranch and meet this big rock star, Michael Jackson. And Freddie Mercury turns over to Peter Freestone and he says, "Michael Jackson, imagine all that money and no taste."
Yeah. What did he? Yeah, he always used to remark on David Bowie's clothing, and used to be like, "You're not going to go out wearing that, David? Surely." Yeah, it's very. Somebody's just asked the question, and let's see if we can find it. It's from Lauren. She says, "What kind of content do you have on your channel?" So that's your YouTube channel. What kind of content do you make?
All kinds. There's all kinds of things. So it's all categorized. All of my content is sometimes it's magic, sometimes it's thoughts, sometimes it's just video blogging, sometimes it's Victorian etiquette, sometimes and weekly, the one that is most consistent as of late has been Storytime. So I'll read classic novels, usually 19th century English novels, and usually they have something to do with Satan, just even in the name only. And presently we're reading The Sorrows of Satan, written in 1896.
I've watched a few episodes of that, actually. Yeah, they're quite interesting. I've been following you on your YouTube channel. I've been watching The Sorrows of Satan. They're very, very theatrical. It's very enjoyable. You should watch it. Definitely check that out. And is it The Gentleman Psychic YouTube?
The Gentleman Psychic. I'm so easy to find. The Gentleman Psychic on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. I'm everywhere. There may be some imposters, but you will know it's me. I have a certain cadence even in my emails, so you'll know it's me.
Yeah, you'll just check the posts and things like that. There'll be posts and posts and posts posted by Richard-Lael. Just see if there's any more questions for you before we go. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. People have said that they've loved listening to your stories, and you're a very interesting person. You've gone down very well tonight on this chat.
Thank you, my friend.
And somebody, Heather, just said you remind them of Johnny Depp. Huh?
Well, I used to play Johnny Depp too. I used to play Johnny Depp's characters. Willy Wonka was and then Barnabas Collins I would play. What other ones? I played the Mad Hatter once or twice, but I was never good at it. I didn't like the Mad Hatter. I didn't like it. But I loved Willy Wonka and I loved Barnabas Collins, and Mordecai was quite good.
Yeah, Johnny Depp is amazing as well. He's a really, really talented bloke, really guy. You've answered. You can fix. So, I think. So I'm gonna wrap that up there. We've been going nearly an hour, and I'm going to thank you so much, Richard, for coming on this first episode. You didn't have to do it, but you've done it, and brilliant. And I hope everyone who's listening on the live stream and who will be listening later on the uploaded podcast will enjoy this. So it will be Phil Sinclair Investigates on Apple, Spotify podcasts, so you can download that, and it'll be episode 1. Not sure what I'll call it yet, but we will put that down there, and we're going to leave that there. So thank you so much, guys, and I hope you all have a lovely evening, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having me.
It's no problem at all. Bye-bye.